Hi, I'm Somer Hackley,
And I am Zen Mac, and this is the Art of Search Hiring Manager series.
and these are stories and insights about all things hiring. Well, hello, Zen. It's good to see you here again today.
Hello.
Yes, okay. Well, I would like to introduce you to Sravana Karnati. So, Sravana is joining us today. So, he's currently EVP of Global Tech Platforms. He's held CTO roles, he's had Chief Product and Technology Officer positions throughout his whole career. And he's worked for some of the largest companies across multiple industries. And we were chatting earlier, I've known him for, I think, over a decade. And he's always been someone who struck me as a really great hiring manager, not only in terms of hiring external folks, but also promoting from within his organization. And so, Sravana, we'd love to ask you about how you do it. So thanks for joining us here today.
Great to be here, Summer and Zan. Good to see you both. Let's do it.
All right.
You've had a number of big global roles. I'm curious, how does your hiring style or methodology change, if at all, as you hire and empower leaders across different geographies?
Yeah, it's a great question, Zan. So there are a couple of questions there, right? So one is, global and then leaders. So early on in my career, I was focused on building great teams, and that really meant, having the domain experts who are really good at what they're doing, who are
Mhm.
business focused, who are results oriented, and so forth. And that does not change as the scope of the role increases and your team size grows. Um, you really want people who are focused on driving the right results and are great team players and so forth. But as the scope grows, what is really more important is you're mostly hiring leaders who are building those teams. So
Mhm.
what you want is leaders who are independent, who have a vision, who can inspire teams, and depending on what the specific role is in terms of global nature of it, you want people who understand the local nuances as well, and potentially be able to sort of work across cultures and do the right thing for the employees, and at the same time deliver the results. So that's what you're really looking for. So it's really the leaders of leaders who are, culturally aware, who are operating with speed and empowering their teams. That's what I was looking for.
Well, that totally makes sense because if you're thinking about global needs, it does depend on cultural nuances. It does depend on inherent knowledge of the location that the folks are in. So I totally get what you're saying. Tell me about a time when you needed to scale a team rapidly. Like, how did you manage to maintain a high velocity and high standards when you're hiring for these rapidly scaling teams?
I am reminded of a role that I had as a CTO of a public company several years ago. The situation was I had teams that were geographically spread out, one in Europe, one in the US. Strong teams. Both teams had tremendous talent on their teams, and to their credit, they delivered a lot of systems and value to the business. However, they were not at the full potential.
Mm.
And we also were in a situation where we were growing organically. We were also acquiring companies and integrating them. And so we needed to scale really fast as well. So it became very important for me to not only sort of strengthen the teams that I had at the time, and there were some cultural issues that I needed to work on as well. So that was a risk that we needed to acknowledge and put a plan to address that.
Mhm.
But we also realized that we needed to sort of scale the teams by going to a different geography and tapping into talent in that place. So the place that we chose was India because there's a lot of talent, especially technology talent. And as it turned out, there was already an effort at a larger scale in the company to leverage India as a new location for our talent. And so it became very easy for me to sort of piggyback on that effort and scale. And we really did not know what we did not know, right? So we
Yeah.
needed to grow fast and we needed to have a flexible pipeline. So we had a recruiting team that was not quite familiar with India as well at the time. And
Mm,
so, and we did not have any opportunity or scope to sort of take baby steps and learn and then grow over time. We needed to move fast, and such was
mm,
the business velocity at that time. And so we took a number of different approaches, and like I talked about, piggybacked on the broader effort. I also partnered with a third party and trained the third party senior engineers in how we recruit our employees and what is that we look for, what is the bar, and when
hmm
do we say yes, when do we say no, and so forth, and have them sort of go off and source a whole bunch of candidates and help them choose the right ones out of that mix. And I recall we were also trying to bring in a senior leader to head that center for us as part of that division. And I met numerous folks along with my chief architect at that time. We were flying people from one location to another location. I was on the move as well. I interviewed people in the hotel lobby and airports, and we were able to successfully establish a third party relationship. We were able to hire our own team, very strong team. And we also strengthened our both European and North American teams as well. So
Wow.
in a nutshell, I would say, exercise all channels, learn from each other, move with speed, and then empower those teams and support them as they're establishing themselves.
I love that. I mean, especially the part where you're sharing that you were on the move, you were meeting people in hotel lobbies. Like that's the whatever it takes type of attitude when it comes to hiring at speed and velocity. But also it sounded like you really didn't offload the responsibility of maintaining that high quality because you were doing it in person yourself too. So
Exactly.
I loved hearing that. Um, last question, I promise. If you were tasked with, say, building a technology team from scratch in a completely unfamiliar market, let's say, I don't know, pick a place that just doesn't seem likely at the moment, how would you go about ensuring that you're hiring the right people? Like, let's say we pick the North Pole. You're going to build a technology team in the North Pole and buy everybody parkas. Like, how would you do it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and growing companies often find themselves in markets that they've not played in, and it can be quite exciting to take such a challenge. And so my approach would be really first study the market, right?
Mm,
If you're going into a market, if you already have a business over there, you're establishing a new technology team, for example. So you have the business over there, so you have the business leaders, they have relationships, study the market with their help. What are the good schools, what are the good target companies that you might want to target talent in, um, and really then establish a machinery that goes after that talent. The foundational skills are transportable for anybody, so I would say don't be limited to only the domains that you're in. You need a good blend of people. So if you're in a retail, I would also look for not just retail company talent, but also pure technology company, because you want to create this sort of micro collisions, if I can use that term, where people challenge each other and enrich each other as well as a result of that. So don't be limited to a particular domain. Broaden your sort of pool of channels, and then piggyback on the business teams that you already have working over there, and start. I would say, I would also say, see if, especially when you don't have any setup over in that market. Sometimes companies go into areas because there is technology talent. You may not have any other business in that location.
mm,
Um, see if there are other partners you can partner with. Maybe a third party, um, company that knows the market, that has done the business. You could leverage their services in establishing the first team. There are companies that build, operate, and then transfer the talent over. You could try that, or have the talent be part of those teams. At the same time, you can separately also establish your own team as well. Try a mix of both things and see how it goes. You also need to think about how long term you are in this. I'm assuming that if you're going into a market, you're going to be there for some length
Hmm.
of time. You have to also think about what are your overall needs, in your company for talent, and in that sort of a journey, what role does this location play, and adapt your strategies for that as well. So it's not just one thing and just go do it, but it is taking all of that into account, and devising the right strategy and going at it with full speed. Never attempt it half-heartedly, because it could actually cause more reputational damage to dabble in something and not do it right. So that's a caution that one should be remembering as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think Zen said it well before, just with the ownership you're taking, and what I really love too is like you're able to leverage these large entities, your own company, you're piggybacking off of lessons learned from other areas, and then you have these third parties, and so you're not reinventing the wheel, and you can just really, have this journey of curiosity, but not start from scratch necessarily.
Right.
And yeah, and I love that cross industry, you know, micro collision. We can coin that. I think it's
I
pretty
love
cool way
that
to
word.
think about it. Yeah, because it's not a conflict. It's just like, huh, hadn't thought about it that way. And that's a good thing. So yeah. Now, as you were talking, I'm like, there's a lot that anyone that is leading a global org for the first time or third time, there's a lot they can learn, from what you just shared here briefly with us. So yeah, this
Yeah,
is
I
really
think
great.
the even after establishing a team in a place, whether in a new geography, or even in
Yeah.
a that you already are familiar with. You could have multiple locations in the same sort of market. For example, in India, it is
Mm-hmm.
teams. There are many companies have teams in, let's say, Bangalore and Chennai, Hyderabad, Gurgaon, etc. You may be generally familiar with the culture, and you know how to do it, but you have to constantly invest in those teams, and you have
Hmm.
to constantly invest in making sure that there is that culture connection back to your corporate as well, right? Especially for remote teams, they don't have the same luxury of meeting executives from the company, perhaps from the corporate office. So how are you enabling that, to
Yeah.
make sure that there is that culture connection? It is going to be super important for finding the purpose, finding that, having a sense of belonging, and then follows the engagement, and the results, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So having that sort of engaging them in bidirectional sort of dialogue, and having execs, go into these markets where you're set up these talent pools, and talk to them about the company culture and the customer, what makes you special as a company, and really, and also, have the talent be moving bidirectionally. So people
Yeah.
also want to know that they have a growth path. That if you're in a satellite office, you can actually grow in the corporate ladder by moving from one of the satellite offices to your corporate office, for example, and vice versa. Doing all of this in a systematic way, having a plan to do it, and in a way that you can explain to people, will create more engagement, belonging, and results.
It's a great way to end it. I love how you set up the foundation, you give them actual important areas and sharing that vision, sharing what they're a part of, and then creating career paths and opportunity. Yeah, no, this is a great conversation. Well, Sravana, thank you for joining us today. It's been great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Great questions. Good
All
luck.
right, take care.